Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We continue from where we had left off. Now here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the verses that are to follow, He's talking about the stories of the prophets that were sent to guide mankind, the objections that people had, and the chastisement that overtook them, and the conversations of those prophets that are revealing to an extent of their psychology. The prophet with whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts is Nabi Nuh, possibly to mean that prior to Nabi Nuh there weren't any forms of natural disasters or chastisement that had taken over the people on the face of this earth. Now, in terms of the story of Nabi Nuh, the floods are not only a story shared by the Abrahamic faith, but the Hindu tradition also mentions the great floods. The Chinese traditions also mention the great floods. The Sumerian writings also talk about the great floods. And of course, in many mythologies, the great floods are there. So it seems as if this is something that had occurred physically on the face of this earth. What we want to try and understand is the psychology that is here and the nature of these chastisements, because a very different story appears from the verses that are to follow than the one that we normally understand in terms of human corruption and chastisement. It is not as if the corruption is bringing chastisement, which is also the case at times. It is as if chastisement is not a chastisement, it's a natural event, and then there is intervention by God, and people who are not following God at that point are then destroyed by those natural events, and then it is termed as chastisement. It's quite interesting to interpret it in that way. In any case, we start from verse 59. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ فَقَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مَا لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرُهُ إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. Indeed, we sent Nuh to his people. Now, Nuh was in his people. What is the meaning of we sent Nuh to his people? You see, Nuh existed with his people for many, many, many years. And Allah is saying, we sent Nuh to his people. What it means is that Nabi Nuh was not a messenger. Then he was authorized as a messenger after certain processes that took place within Nabi Nuh when he became eligible to receive that particular message, or he was eligible, maybe not quite, and he was made fully eligible because he was chosen. And now, but I don't know whether Nabi Nuh was chosen eternally, or there the decision was making that Nuh will be the next messenger. Now, we asked ourselves, why was Nabi Nuh all of a sudden chosen and sent to his people? I mean, he is there, now he is being told, you're a messenger, go to these people and tell them what they're doing is wrong, and tell them that there is something grand coming to pass. You see, what appears here is that Prophet had said, Allah had said in the story of Adam, that my prophets will come to you. But we don't know that are those prophets already chosen in eternity, or that God has already put in an agenda that the prophets will come. We will choose as and how, and He knows in eternity as to who they will be. But then there is also a process of uncertainty as to when he will be picked, or who will be picked, or change of mind, or change of destiny, and course on and so forth, as we find in the story of Ismail, the son of Imam Sadiq, that he said there's a great bada that has occurred. In any case, Nabi Nuh is sent in the sense that he is chosen. And now, not as Nuh, but as an emissary of God, he's been sent. He says to his people, worship Allah. You do not have a God other than Him. I fear upon you the chastisement of a grand day. Yawmun Azim is a term that is used for the day of Qiyamah. So it is, the floods that were going to come was something grand that would wipe out so much of existence on the face of the earth. And hence he is saying, I ask you to be warned, to take caution from a grand chastisement. Now what appears here is, as Nabi Nuh will say in a little while, that I know from God what you don't know, that natural sequences were that there was going to be a big flood, huge flood. Maybe because a huge ice cap had fallen into the ocean that had raised the waters many thousands of miles away, that was creating great floods and changing the ecology and the weather system. Nabi Nuh from Allah was informed that this is what's going to happen. Within a matter of 50 years, all of these ecological changes will impact you. The whole of this place will be drowned. Now, how do you escape from that? It's quite intriguing that if you worship Allah, there's two possible interpretations that comes to my mind. If you worship one God, then I will give you salvation and I will rescue you. Or if you worship one God and start praying, then your prayers will influence the events that unfold in this world, and your piece of land or whatever it is may be saved from being drowned. Either or. Yes? In any case, he is preaching to them. They do not listen to him. Their response is قال الملأ. So what it means is that the prophets are sent as a form of intervention. You see, the floods are going to come regardless of Nabi Nuh telling them or not. So it appears from this verse at least that the adab of the people of Nuh was not particularly because they had procured adab due to their sins, but the adab was an existential event coming to pass. And Nabi Nuh was telling them that you can avert this either by turning to one God who can then influence, that belief can then influence the natural course of events within this world and you can be saved, or that I can take you aboard the ark and save you. It seems as if the first one is more accurate interpretation because the ark was a later option when Nuh failed to preach to them. Then he was told now build an ark. Yes? So the prophet here is an intervention from God. Look, oh gosh, the great floods are going to come. They are all going to be drowned. This is Nuh. He is most appropriate to go and warn them. Worship Allah, otherwise you're going to be destroyed. So it's a role of intervention. قال الملأ من قومه إنا نراك في ضلال بعيد. The chiefs, the elite, they said from his people, they said to him, we see you in manifest error. You will always find in any community that the majority of the people are led by a minority group of people. If the Quran's message was to everybody, and everybody was awoken to the message of the Quran, and hence the success of Rasulullah, it wasn't the chiefs, but normally in any community, we find that the community becomes irrational because the chiefs are invested in a particular vision. The heads of the community, the loudmouths, the few family, they are invested in a vision. And the majority of the people, through their insecurities, suspend their sense of judgment. So here again, we're finding that not the common men are interacting with Nuh. It's the elite who are telling them, oh, you're in manifest error, and then the common people just follow the elite. If only we could awaken to this truth that in our communities the same thing is happening, that few families decide the fate of the community and majority just follow them through insecurity. قال يا قومي ليس بضلال ولكني رسول من رب العالمين. He said, oh my people, I am not in error. Rather, I'm a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. So here Nuh has been blessed with that insight where he can see him as the Rabb al-Alamin. أُبَلِّغُكُمْ رِسَالَاتِ رَبِّي. I communicate to you the messages of my Lord. وَأَنْصَحُ لَكُمْ. And I'm a well-wisher. Look, I mean you no harm. I'm only telling you to worship Allah, otherwise a big thing is coming to happen to you. What am I gaining from it? وَعَلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. I know from Allah what you don't know. I know these great floods are going to come. You don't know because you can't see that far. You can't have that wholesome outlook. I do. This is one thing about the prophets. The prophets always make rational arguments. But in addition to the rational arguments, they also have a wholesome vision in which they know and they see and they understand what we do not understand. So they call on to two types of authority. One is authority based on reason, the other is authority based on knowledge. And this is what Allah says to the angels, that look, I know what you do not know about this Adam. But still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then responds to them in a rational manner. So it shows that the authority that is gained, that is expected on the basis of knowledge, is always within the Quran and even by God, supplemented through rational arguments. So if in today's world a man says, I know, and you do not know because I've studied for 70 years, it means nothing until and unless they rationally engage. Because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to the angels, I know what you don't know, and still engages with them rationally, and the prophets engage with people rationally, despite their knowledge base, then who is other than Allah and their prophet and his prophets? أَوْ عَجِبْتُمْ أَنْ جَاءَكُمْ ذِكْرٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ عَلَىٰ رَجُلٍ مِّنْكُمْ لَيُنذِرَكُمْ وَلِتَتَّقُوا وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. Do you consider it odd that a reminder from your Lord should come to you through a man from among yourselves to warn you, so that you may be God wary and so that you may receive His mercy? Now what happens normally is when you're just a man. But what Nabi Nuh is saying, I might be just a man. So what? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending me to you, yes, why should there be a great cosmic event and an angel coming to tell you otherwise? What I'm talking to you is rationally based. Does it make sense or not? If it makes sense, what difference does it make whether an angel says that to you or a human being says that to you? The word of the argument is in its rationality. This is what Nabi Nuh is saying. You don't have to have a big turban or a big beard. Reason is reason, for crying out loud. But they denied him. فَكَذَّبُوهُ. So we delivered him. فَأَنْجَيْنَاهُ وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ فِي الْفُلْكِ وَأَغْرَقْنَا الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا قَوْمًا عَمِينَ. Now what appears here is that had they actually turned to Allah, there might have been an intervention in the sense that the floods could have been averted from that region. However, they denied him, so we delivered him. So now the intervention takes place and an ark is being built. And those who were with him in the ark, and we drowned those who denied our signs, indeed they were a blind lot. So here now, this great flood is coming regardless of your sins. The intervention is believe in God. If you believe in God, either the danger will be averted through your prayers and God's intervention in a very big scale, or if you do not pray, then those of the people who turn to God, they will be given salvation through an ark, and the latter one became true. Otherwise, if they had all believed, it could have been possible to avert the flood in any case, because Nuh could not have possibly taken all those people aboard his ark. وَإِلَىٰ عَادٍ أَخَاهُمْ هُودٍ. And to the people of Ad, who comes after Nabi Nuh, their brother Hud. Now it could be that because they had this sort of an understanding in their communal life that they were all equals and they were brother-like, and they shared this proximity with each other, not that they were brothers from the same parents. It could be that they were from one family, those tribes initially, but it means more so in their own interaction, they were like brothers interacting, and they called themselves brothers. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مَا لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرُهُ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. He says the same thing. O my people, worship Allah. There is no God other than Him. Will you not then be wary of God? قَالَ الْمَلَأُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ قَوْمِهِ إِنَّا لَنَرَاكَ فِي سَفَاهَةٍ وَإِنَّا لَنَظُنُّكَ مِنَ الْكَاذِبِينَ. Again, the elite of his people who were faithless said, indeed we see you to be in folly, and indeed we consider you to be a liar. Now, we consider you to be weak of mind, and we consider you to be a liar. You don't have all the knowledge base and so on and so forth. You see, again, they did not listen to reason. They were going on their presumed sort of understanding of who is a person who has a right to dictate. But they were not listening to reason. And again, there were very few who were determining the destiny of the majority. And the majority only suffers at the hands of the wickedness of the few is because they hand over their sense of reasoning. They suspend it and they follow the few. Just because somebody has a big beard or a big turban, whichever color it is, doesn't mean they're right. Reason prevails over all things. This is how Quran is talking. The elite, again, are contending against Hud. And they're not saying to Hud, look, these are the arguments, our counter-arguments. They are saying, you know what, you're weak of intellect and you're a liar, you're misguided. They don't have any argument. And the foolish laity follows this elite and suffer the consequence. And this is exactly what's happening in today's world. Everywhere in the world, this is exactly what is happening. In every little community, this is what is happening. Nobody is immune to this. In any case, Hud says, قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ لَيْسَ بِسَفَاهَا وَلَكِنِّي رَسُولٌ مِّن رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. I don't have weakness of mind, believe me. I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. The same words Nabi Nuh has been saying. أُبَلِّغُكُمْ رِسَالَاتِ رَبِّي. I communicate to you the messages of my Lord, exactly in the same tone that Nabi Nuh said. وَأَنَا لَكُمْ نَاصِحٌ أَمِينٌ. I have nothing to gain from you, and I am a trustworthy well-wisher for you. You have seen me in my life with you that I've always been a trustworthy person. I've never lied, I've never cheated, I have never ever committed a crime. Today, when I'm telling you something based on reason that this is the truth, why do you deny it? And this is exactly what happens in every community. The right people who have never lied, who have never stolen, who have never done anything wrong, when they say something good, but because the elite can't make sense of it because they're so invested in a vision, they are the ones who object. أَوَعَجِبْتُمْ مَنْ جَاءَكُمْ ذِكْرٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ عَلَىٰ رَجُلٍ مِّنْكُمْ لَيُنذِرَكُمْ وَاذْكُرُوا. He says, same thing that Nabi Nuh said. Do you consider it odd that there should come to you a reminder from your Lord through a man from among yourselves, so that he may warn you? What difference does it make whether it's a man amongst yourself or an angel or a great being that comes and tells you? If it is rationally based, the validity of the argument is in its rationality, not in the one who says it. Then he is appealing to their different side because they already have certain knowledge base of what had happened. And he says, وَاذْكُرُوا إِذْ جَعَلَكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ مِنْ بَعْدِ قَوْمِ نُوحٍ. Remember when he made you successors after the people of Nuh, because his people already had those historical teachings that they were passing by word of mouth, that there was Nabi Nuh, there were great floods, and then we came after him from the progeny of Nabi Nuh, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us so much. وَزَادَكُمْ فِي الْخَلْقِ بَسْطًا. And he increased you vastly in creation. It is said that these people were giant-like people, and of course we also have these texts that there were giant-like people who roamed upon the earth. Well, this verse seems to be confirming that these people were created, they had very, very big postures, bigger than others. فَاذْكُرُوا عَلَىٰ اللَّهِ. They were very prosperous people in terms of the sort of things that they had, agricultural systems and so on and so forth. But of course, according to our history, the Sumerians were the first ones and so on and so forth, but this Hud and Saleh seem to be preceding before 5,000, maybe even 10,000, that are called the civilizations that we don't know anything about. But in any case, it seems that this Quran is unraveling many things that jigsaw puzzles, pieces of the jigsaw that we are missing in our understanding of the world and the progression and evolution of human life. In any case, فَاذْكُرُوا عَلَىٰ اللَّهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلَحُونَ. Now remember the bounties of Allah so that you may be successful. Once you say, oh yeah, Allah destroyed them, and this is how He bestowed upon us, His hope was that He can bring them out of polytheism into monotheism. And of course, He was also seeing that a great physical, natural event is going to come to pass. And if they start believing in God, then at least I can deliver them from that village, or the village can be safeguarded and the adab can be averted from that region. So it seems as if Hud again is an intervention from God to save people. قالوا وجئتنا لنعبد الله وحده ونذر ما كان يعبد آباؤنا. They said, the elite, have you come to tell us that we should worship Allah alone and abandon what our forefathers have been worshipping? So you see, again, the argument is not valid. It's not a rational argument. It's just because these, beards and turbans have been telling us to do this, should we just stop whatever they've been telling us? Because you're saying this. But what Hud is saying is, look, I'm not telling you anything. I'm just giving you a rational argument. Allah, you yourself are saying that Allah destroyed them. Allah saved you. Allah gave you this. So now why have you transgressed? There is something mighty going to happen to you. I'm here to communicate that to you and to save you if you act in time. In any case, these elites said, فَأْتِنَا بِمَا تَعِدُنَا إِن كُنْتَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Then bring us what you threaten us with, should you be truthful. They're very, very obstinate. قَالَ قَدْ وَقَعَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ رِجْزٌ وَغَضَبٌ. He said, there has become due against you a punishment and wrath from your Lord. The word rijz in the Quran is always used to depict physical form of chastisements upon the earth that are through natural events and causes. And it can also be talking about physical filth, into physical properties that are considered filth in accordance with the human soul. So there is an interaction. There's an interaction of the act of the human soul and its response by the natural world. So now the adab is coming and you people are procuring it fully. You cannot be delivered, so you will be taken by it. And his wrath. And in one hadith, the Imam says that Allah does not feel anger and happiness, so He has creations that feel anger and happiness on His behalf. And that could maybe alluding to some of the times when God uses the pronoun we as His agencies. But it's a very deep meaning that has to be unraveled very properly and very sensitively. أتجادلونني في أسماء سميتموها أنتم وآباؤكم ما نزل الله بها من سلطان فانتظروا إني معكم من المنتظرين. He says, do you contend with me regarding names that you and your forefathers have named? Because the other verses in Surah Nuh, in other places, they also have gods that they were naming, variety of different gods. Su'a and Nasr in the case of Nabi Nuh and other. So he says, do you contend against me in terms of these names? Yes? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not given you any authority. Now, in all possibility, when the verse of the Quran say to the angels, did they worship you? The angels said, glory be to you. They worshipped the jinn, not us. So in all possibility, these people did see at that point beings, and they imagined them to be the Lord of rain and the Lord of crop and the Lord of air and the Lord of light, so on and so forth. But the prophets always gave rational arguments that they are not lords. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Lord. You can see a particular system, if there were a variety of different lords, they would be contending against each other. How could they get it so right, so meticulously? Yes? So whatever them and their forefathers had named might have had certain real references that then got out of hand or were misinterpreted. In any case, Nabi says to them, then so wait, I too wait along with you, because he knew now this thing is on its way. So now the story here is that Hud did not go suddenly one day and warn them. He did not get enlightened. He got, and then because they weren't good people, they procured the adab. From these verses, it seems at least, that the adab was on its way as a natural event. Hud awoke in a prophetic manner, goes to them, says to them, become believers. Had they become believers, Hud had one of two choices. Either pray to God for God to avert the punishment, for the Mother Earth to then recarve the destiny, or for Him to deliver them. It seems that had they become believers in God, the punishment would have been averted altogether. In fact, it wasn't punishment, it was a natural event. The natural event would have been averted altogether. But because they didn't turn to God, the Prophet was forced to exit from the village with his few that he took with him. And the rest were then punished. And then it became a punishment because they were caught up in that natural event due to their obstinate nature and due to their sin. So it wasn't a punishment initially. It was a natural event which then transpired as a punishment, and these distinctions are very, very useful. فَأَنْجَيْنَاهُ وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ بِرَحْمَةٍ مِنَّا. Then we delivered him and those who were with him by mercy from us. Here, the plural is used because the angels might have gone to the Prophet and said to him, okay, come with us from this exit, from this route. And the people who were with him, through mercy from us, وَقَطَّعْنَا دَابِرَ الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَمَا كَانُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ. And we rooted out those who denied our signs and were not faithful. Rooted out means that they had left no progeny. Every single trace of them had gone. Now, it obviously means that even the young from those people and their children and babies were also taken. Not to say that those babies and those young were sinful. Not to say that they will go to hell. But it just shows how this nature is working. It's amazing. The child had no sin. But this is the way that nature works. When floods come, little insects, they all get killed. In that way, we are no different from nature. Now, in one sense, the little ones suffer the destiny of the elder ones. In the other sense, in terms of salvation and damnation, the little ones did not suffer the destiny of the elders. But the lay who were not using their minds suffered the destiny both in this world and in the hereafter of the elite. In this world by being crushed through the chastisement of God, in the next one through damnation. So you can see here how complex the whole situation is. وصلى الله على محمد وعلى الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين.